Hello, and welcome to Rob from the Internet Talks About Beer, a show where we discuss different styles of beer, beer history, beer flavor profiles. We give shout outs to breweries we think make exceptional beer, and sometimes we just shoot the shit, like today. All right, so joining me today is my friend and fellow beer compatriot, Andrew Hendry. If you would, Andrew, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into craft beer and what you're doing these days.
Well, again, okay. My name is Andrew Henry, and I got into craft beer because I was hired as a gardener at Upper Canada Brewing Company, and because of nepotism. And then they realized very quickly I wasn't a gardener, and they put me into retail, and my hair was too long, and I looked too ugly for retail, so they said, oh, you're going to have to put you into production. And I said, production, where they pay me lots of money, and I get to have a regular job? And they said, yeah, and I said, great. And so that was when I was 19, started on the production floor at Upper Canada, and that's how I started, in the microbrewery business.
All right. So is Upper Canada even still around these days, or
I believe Upper Canada, I'm sorry. I believe some Upper Canada labels are still not labels. Beers are still being sold by brands are still being sold by Sleeman's. Sleeman's bought Upper Canada in like I want to say 1997 or 1996. It was very soon after I moved to Vancouver, where I worked at Storm Brewing, which was a very, 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 very fun brewery to work at. Tiny place.
Yeah, me not being from Canada, I've never heard of it.
Check it out. Storm Brewing is it's an interesting place. It's kind of filthy. I walked in there once, and the owner, James Walton, is he's got a PhD, I believe, or he's got a lot of education in microbiology and whatnot. So he was growing mushrooms. Like, he knows all about yeast and everything, but he also knows about mushrooms. He comes from a mushroom growing family. So he was growing mushrooms in the brewery. I walked in the morning, and there was all these like bags around, like not shopping bags, but like garbage bags. And I was like, what's in the garbage bags? He's like, oh, don't open those up. Those are my mushroom colonies or my mushroom spores or whatever. I'm like, spores in a brewery? You know, like, he's like, yeah, don't open the bags. And so that. But he makes great beer. He still does. He's still out there making great beer and really interesting beers. But when I lived out in BC for 3 years, I worked there, and it was a fantastic brewery to work for because it was tiny. I learned a lot, and it was a lot of fun.
Cool, awesome. So for people who are familiar with my show, we're going a little off of the normal format today. There is no specific beer that we're talking about. It's just going to be Andrew and I kind of sitting around chewing the fat about beer culture, things that are going on in the beer world these days, what we happen to be drinking today, maybe more than one, who knows. It's just going to be a fun off the cuff kind of show, a little bit different than the usual stuff. So what are you drinking, Andrew?
Well, today I'm starting with one of these, Aurora Borealis. Nice. Which is, I'm buying all my beers analog these days. I haven't yet gotten on to the home delivery, ordering it online. So I still actually go to the liquor store and I buy beer. So whatever I have to buy from whatever's there. Well, luckily, Laura Borealis is a great beer. There's some good beers there. But then you have a favorite beer all of a sudden, and then it disappears. I was drinking tons of that, not tons. I was drinking a lot of the Muddy York, little cute little can, the switchboard operator.
Yeah.
And that was delicious. I was drinking. I think I drank it all from the liquor store, and then it hasn't been back for like a year and a half or something. So yeah, that's what I'm drinking right now. What are you drinking?
I am drinking Clifford Brewing's El Maravilla. It's a Belgian strong ale that's aged with lime and salt for a year in a barrel. So
wow.
Hey, it's actually quite nice. Look at the color on this thing. I mean, it's like this nice kind of orangish amber color, and it's got a lovely limey aroma to it, and it hits you with lime up front like nobody's business when you take a drink of it, man. It's fantastic. Wow. It's like a margarita beer.
Sounds great. It looks great.
Yeah, and it's nice because it's barrel aged. It's lower carbonation, which means I can drink faster.
I can't take carbonation as I get older. Like I hate having a beer and the carbonation is so high that I can't drink anymore. It just shuts the night down. It's like now I'm like, oh, I don't want any more. I would love to have a bunch more beers, but I can't. It's why I can't drink like 50s or like beers of my youth. Like 50 or Black Label or whatnot. I used to be able to, choke one back just for old time's sake. I can't anymore because it just the carbonation is just way too high. It's like soda pop.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I really prefer barrel-aged beers, and I love cask-conditioned beers because they're so much lower in carbonation and they're so much easier to drink, and you don't get that big bloated feeling from all the carbonation that's in your stomach. Especially if you get a beer from somebody who doesn't know how to properly pour a beer to release some of that carbonation before you get it. And then you end up just basically drinking a pop. I mean, you're sitting there and you're belching and you're like, oh, what the hell's wrong with this beer? But,
that was one of the bonus. That was a plus of, for a good, for a long time, I was drinking the beers that I was making. I was also carbonating those beers. So I got to carbonate them the way I wanted them. So that's why, a lot of beers were even like, not even like out of a can or a bottle or a keg or whatnot. Generally the beers, if I made it and kegged it and transferred it and whatnot, did all that, it's going to be a little lower on the carbonation level because I want to drink it.
Yes. I do the same thing. It's like, recommended, so I brew a lot of stouts and things like that here at home. And the recommended carbonation is like 2 to 2.3 volume for the carbonation. And I'll typically do it more like 1.6, 1.8, somewhere a little bit lower, just because I like to be able to pour it and just drink it, not have, I know as a certified beer nerd, I know you're supposed to have the pretty head and all that kind of stuff on there. But for me, I just want to get the beer in my belly. And I want to taste it in my mouth. I don't care so much about the carbonation. I'm actually not opposed to fairly flat beers, which I mean isn't surprising because I really like cask beers, which aren't overly carbonated. I mean, they're very low carbonation relatively compared.
It all depends on the style, right? Like it all depends on the time of year, the weather, the atmosphere, what you're drinking. It all it all depends, but. The one constant for me is no high carb. I can't take high carbonation. I can take mid to whatever normal. Like this is nicely carbonated, but it's not a soda pop like like you might find a Molson Canadian or one of those.
Unfortunately, one of my favorite beer series from Nickelbrook is often overcarbonated in my opinion. That's their Uber series, their Berliner Weiss. And to be fair, Berliner Weiss are supposed to be high carbonation beers, but it's just, I find that anymore, I pour it and I let it sit for 10, 15 minutes just to get some of the bubbles out of it because it's just so high in carbonation for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what are we gonna do? We're getting old.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, and you know, I guess that's the price we have to pay. We have to drink lower carbonation beer. Oh
our,
no, I'm still drinking beer though.
our delicate tummies can't take it.
That's right. Well, yeah, and we got better things to do. You know, our time on the planet is a lot shorter than these young kids. So we don't want to have to sit there, wait and belch and wait for the bloated feeling to go away. We just want to get more of it in our bellies in the short time we have left on this planet.
That's right. That's right.
So what are you up to these days, man?
Well, that's not much, unfortunately. I've stopped brewing. This is the first time in 30 years that no beer is being made in Ontario by me, or in Canada by me. Unfortunately, my the physicality of the job has demanded that I cease, which is, somewhat heartbreaking. But you do what you got to do. I want to continue. So now I'm on a new adventure. I'm trying new things.
Yeah, now, you and I were talking offline, and you said you're looking into doing voiceover work, and
Why?
I told you, yeah,
What?
I told you I think you have a fantastic voice for it. Now I know that my voice isn't exactly the greatest for voiceover work, but your voice is so much better than mine for voiceover work. I could definitely see you doing like commercial voiceover work and it going over like everybody's business. I mean, because you've got one of those voices that's like you've got like that radio voice already, without actually being a radio person.
Well, thank you. That is the direction I'd like to go. I would try. I have different resources that I have. One of them is my voice, and I'd like to travel down that pathway a little bit and see what's there.
Yeah, and now I'm just going to put this out there. You might not be brewing commercially, but when I get my new brew system here this spring, I plan on pulling you in, and you and I are going to at least brew a couple beers here at my place, and we'll sit around drinking beer while we're making beer.
You could bend my arm. I'm sure I could be.
I won't make you do the heavy lifting. I'll make you do the heavy. Well, it'll be heavy lifting of like a glass. It'll be a full glass.
Filling the lifting of the wrist.
That's right. The 12-ounce curl. So in terms of in terms of just general beer things, what are some of the things going on in the beer world right now that have your interest?
Huh.
Oh, I stumped him.
Well, you kind of did. Well, when I stopped brewing, I kind of, to tell you the truth, and I'll just be a little vulnerable for a second. I kind of stepped back from that world because I wanted to be there, but I couldn't be there. So I kind of stepped back a little bit, and I'm not, I don't really.
Gotcha. No, that's cool. So you haven't really been following anything. So
yeah,
I
started drinking whiskey.
So
sorry, everybody.
No. So what style of whiskey are you into these days?
Well, these right now I'm in the middle of it sounds like I don't have it in front of me or anything.
Sure you don't. It's just off camera. We just can't see it.
Right now I've got a bottle of Irish whiskey I'm enjoying, but I'm not discriminatory against other whiskeys. I'm enjoying just like one in the afternoon and then having a nap.
Yeah. I mean, a good whiskey will do that to you anyway. So.
You hope so. Yeah. I love a good beer and a whiskey chaser. Like at the bar, sitting at the bar. I love to have a beer and a shot of whiskey in front of me. That's a nice feeling.
So you said you're drinking Irish whiskey at the moment. So one of my favorite Irish whiskeys is called Writer's Tears. I tried it when I tried it when I was over in Ireland, and I was shocked when I came back that it was actually at the LCBO here where I live in Brantford. It's funny. We've got 3 LCBOs here in Brantford, and they all have different strong suits. So, like the one that's closest to me is the whiskey LCBO, because I live in a part of town where it's a lot of blue collar workers, and they want their Molson, they want their Coors, and they want their whiskey, which is great because I like whiskeys. So they had Writer's Tears, and they've got a fantastic selection of Irish, and they've got a fantastic selection of Scotch, and they've got a fantastic selection of bourbons, which are all 3 the things I like. I love a good Irish whiskey, like Writer's Tears, or Redbreast is another one that's a good Irish whiskey. That's fairly inexpensive, and it's nice. And then for scotches, my favorites are the Balvenis. So I like the Balvenie 14 Caribbean cask, which is an absolutely fantastic scotch, and then Lagavulin 16, which is super peaty, which a lot of people don't like because of that peat that it's got in it. And then for bourbons, I'm a Maker's Mark kind of guy. I like my sweet bourbon because I like making old fashions with it.
Right. I was. I'll tell you. May I tell a story? Oh, this isn't a story,
of course.
But we're talking about whiskey. I was really lucky. When I first started at Upper Canada and I was 19, Upper Canada had fantastic parties and events. It seemed like every other week there'd be some sort of event or party or whatever. But some of them were like cigar parties, and then some of them were whiskey parties. And I remember sitting. I was like, maybe I was 20 by this time. It was my second year there. But I was sitting with Frank Heaps, who was like the president. He's the owner. He's the big kahuna of Upper Canada, and I'm just this 20-year-old, bottle chucker, and and he and I are, and he's buying me whiskeys that I can't remember now, but they were like, really good, expensive whiskeys, and he's just chucking shots down the bar at me, and there was other people there as well, and he's also giving us cigars that were rolled on the thighs of virgins and Belize, just amazing cigar. I've never had cigars since then that were so good, and just to be so young and to be exposed to these things. At the time, I didn't know. I had no idea what I was even drinking or smoking, but it was later on I found out that it was quite good, and it gave me a taste for some of the
for the good life.
yeah. But then of course I couldn't afford it, so when I would at that time, if I had to buy my own whiskey, it was always the cheapest of the single malts, which I believe was Fiddick at the time, Glenfiddich.
Yep.
Came in the tube, which you could the tube helped hold your drumsticks too.
Yeah, so the thing is, Glenfiddich gets a lot of shit for being a low end single malt, but it's a very approachable Scotch for people who are looking to get into whiskeys.
And also it was affordable.
Yeah, it's affordable. It's not offensive to anybody's senses. If you're just getting into Scotch, particularly, it's very mild. It's a very mild Scotch. It doesn't have it's not overly smoky. It's not overly peaty. It's just a very well balanced, very light Scotch, and it's a great starting point. And for people who are younger and may not have the means to afford the more expensive Scotches, it's a good Scotch. It's not the greatest, but it's by far not the worst.
Yep. Hey, I've lost your picture. Is that okay? I mean, that's fine for me. Is that okay for the? Is that okay for the podcast?
Yeah, no, it's fine for the recording because it records to my machine and it records to your machine, your video feed, and then it just uploads them all at the end. So I'll have both feeds. It's not an issue. I still see you, so
All right, because
which
you're
is
not
fine.
making faces at me or anything.
And really, if you don't see me, is that really a big deal? I mean, it's not like I'm something to look at.
Yeah. Oh, you're back. Oh no, you're back.
So what I'm hearing is when you come to my house to brew beer, I have to have whiskey and I have to have cigars available. Luckily for you, I have both available all the time because I drink whiskey and I smoke cigars.
Well, that's good. I haven't smoked cigars in a long time, but I have no problem
So
doing it again. You know,
so
I'm green. But
yeah, so pre-COVID, Lisa, my wife, and I went to visit some friends that we know in Milwaukee that own a brewery. Hey, if you're in the Milwaukee area, visit the Explorium Brew Pub. They have fantastic beer and food. And we went to
famous made a fool out of me.
and every year in Milwaukee there's a cigar festival. So we hooked up with my friend Mike, who owns the Explorium, and his wife and a few other friends. We all hopped onto a bus and we started drinking on the bus. We got to the event. We were drinking at the event, and you literally at the event they give you this book full of coupons, and you go to all the different vendors and they give you 1 or 2 free cigars. So by the time we left, we had like 100 cigars from all these different vendors. And then we bought some other stuff, like, oh, these guys had really good cigars and they're decent prices. So we bought a few extra. We came back over the border and the border patrol guy's like, so what are you coming back with? And I'm like, oh, well, we've got a couple cases of beer, a few bottles of bourbon, and 210 cigars. He's like, all right, welcome back to Canada. So I've got all these cigars in the humidor, and I don't smoke them like every day. It's like, oh, every couple of weeks I'm like, oh, maybe I'll have a cigar today, and I go sit outside on the patio, or I sit out. What's that?
You wait for babies to be born, right?
Yeah, or you wait for babies to be born. Yeah. Oh, you got a cigar? Cool. Do people even do that anymore?
I don't know. It's been a while since I had a kid, so.
Me too. I mean, it's been almost 30 years since I had a kid, but I did hand out cigars when my daughter was born.
I handed out something, but they might not have been cigars, but they were.
Oh, you were handing out blunts, is what you were handing out, weren't you?
Okay, continue.
I was going to say, so for people who might not know, Andrew is a multi-talented individual. He's actually also in a band. Want to tell us a little bit about your musical career there, Andrew?
Well, that's a whole other. I've been playing music longer than I've been brewing, so that's a long time. I did a count, and I was like, I think I've been in like 60 bands or something, none of which you have heard of. So.
especially me, because I've only been in this country for 3.5 years now, so I wouldn't have heard of any of them.
But my musical career has often overlapped with my my brewing career. A lot of breweries are interested in the arts. It's a way of reaching out to people, having events, when you have an event, you have music and you have art on the walls and whatnot. Upper Canada always had an art gallery kind of feel to the main hall, which means you had to be careful when you were driving the forklift. But they would let people in and look at the art and whatnot. And there was quite often music at the brewery as well. I remember seeing Big Sugar there. But before Big Sugar was a rock band, Gordie Johnson was playing, and he had a little jazz combo. So you see, they would play there quite often. Well, there was like an Upper Canada band. which I was the drummer for, and we played a lot of gigs, you know, and we sometimes we got paid, and we had fun. But the funnest thing I ever did musically at Upper Canada, and this might be the whole of ever, like ever. There's a thing called the Rebel March. You ever heard of the Rebel March?
I have not.
Okay, and here's where I'm going to expose my ignorance of history here. I believe in Canada there was the Upper Canada Rebellion. I'm not even going to try and guess a date because I'll just get it wrong and I'll look stupid. But I believe Mackenzie King marches down, not the Prime Minister, but the other guy, Mackenzie, marches down Yonge Street, starts at a bar called the Rebel House, I think. I'm getting all this wrong. Anyway, a bunch of ruffians marched down Yonge Street back in like 18 something, and it's we started recreating it at Upper Canada, and we get a bunch of drummers and pipers, and it was in December. I think it was December, you know, mid-December, so there would often be snow on the ground. It'd be cold, but you'd march from Yonge and Eglinton, and you'd march from Yonge and Eglinton all the way down to Say What. Down on Front Street, I think, there, Queens Quay or whatever. And you'd hit every bar that had Upper Canada Rebellion on tap. You started like 7 o'clock, and you were lucky if you made it to the end. I did it for like 4 or 5 years in a row, and I think I only ever made it to the end once because of drunkenness. Like, these are things you couldn't do now. Like the insurance, you would never be allowed to do this. But this was an Upper Canada event where, all these drummers and pipers, we'd march into a bar and we just start playing. And I imagine, the Upper Canada would buy a round of Upper Canada Rebellion for everybody. And we'd make a big ruckus and a noise, and then we'd leave and march to the next bar and do the same thing again. But that means you're just drinking pints all night long, and you're playing drums. We were playing like snare drum, marching snare, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun for the first couple hours, and it was a lot of fun till the end. But you very rarely remember the end. It was just it ended up as a drunken, a bar crawl. But it starts out as a very dignified. Yes, we're doing this in the name of history, and we're remember this and everything. But 2 hours later, we're just
pinkies up and the whole bit to start, and then heads down and barely drumming at the end.
Yeah. I was just looking at a picture, in fact, of us. It's the first year, and it's me and my buddy Blake, who also plays in my band. Guh.
Guh. That's G-U-H. Guh.
And we're very youthful. We're like 20 years old, or if that. I think I'm just freshly 20 because it's December, and we're young and drunk and full of hope and dreams. Not the bitterness that we have today.
Life hadn't trodden all over you yet. You were still full of vim and vigor. All right. I am going to do something I never do, and that's put down my headphones and walk over and grab another beer because I am out. I'll be right back.
All right, I'll join you on that. Okay, well, he's gone. What should we talk about? What kind of art does he have on the wall? Oh, he's back. Shh.
Yeah, shh. Nobody saw me leave. All right, so now I am going to be switching over to Uncle Leo's Smoked Porter. Uncle Leo's is a brewery in Nova Scotia. I recently had a friend who lives in Nova Scotia come and visit for the week over Canadian Thanksgiving. And he brought me a selection of beers from Nova Scotia because I asked him to, because he knows I like beer and he likes beer. And we sat around drinking beer. So this is a really good smoked porter. It's actually the only beer I've ever had from this brewery, but I've had it a few times now, and every time I've really enjoyed it. So shout out to Uncle Leo's Brewery. I don't know what other beers you make, but this one's absolutely fantastic.
Nice. Good for you, Uncle Leo.
That's right. You know, it's funny. Is every time I hear that, all I can think of is Seinfeld, because Jerry Seinfeld had Uncle Leo, and
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
but the guy in this can doesn't look anything like that guy.
Well, for my second beer, they've just put these out again, so I'm going to have one of these.
Ooh,
I have one. I remember when these were new. I remember these were brand new, and the can looked cool as hell, and the concept. You know, it was one of the first kind of concept beers actually that I can think of. You know, where it was like, let's do 666, and we'll make everything 6.66, and the whole. They made the beer to the concept, and
right.
It's great. I loved it then, and I imagine I'm going to love it now.
Right. It's 666. That's so metal, dude. Rah!
668, member of the neighbor of the beast.
Yeah, 667, the next door neighbor. Yeah. So people for people who might want to try Uncle Leo's, just so you know, you get a nice smoky aroma off of the nose. It's got a great chocolatey flavor profile to it. It's sweet. It's got that nice malty backbone. There's a little bit of bitter on it, but not a whole lot. This is a great beer. This is a beer that would go well with a cigar. So, getting back to your music, is Guh playing anytime soon?
Actually, no, we're not booked to play anything live. Although, I mean, there's been barely any live playing lately. But we did end up getting to play a few times this summer, or once in the summer, once in the fall outdoors. But we do have some new music coming out on Bandcamp.
I love Bandcamp.
Oh, good. We're far behind the times. We don't know how to we don't know how to do tech stuff. We don't know how to say the word.
Right? For people who might be unaware, Andrew is somewhat of a Luddite. He's using someone else's computer today to talk to me because he doesn't own one.
I got one, but I don't know how to use it yet.
I'm just giving you shit, man. Come on.
No, we have on Bandcamp. We have a new record coming out called Hotel Guh. Guh is a band I've played in for 30 years. This year is our 30th anniversary. We played. We're a Toronto band. We played around a lot in the 90s and in the 2000s and in the 2010s. Although more so in the 90s. But we've never stopped playing. We've never broke up or anything. Yeah, we've continued as a band and as a unit for 30 years. But we've grown. There's about 12 members, I think now, or 12 full-time members. So we're a big band. It's hard to put us in a room, which is why I imagine we won't be playing much over the winter, because I don't know if anybody's going to want that many people in one room. Right. But during the summer, we play outside a lot. We do a lot of, we do play festivals, and we play art crawls and whatnot.
Excellent. So do you guys have like a brass section of your band if you're that big?
We do. We
awesome.
Right now we kind of have. Right now it's kind of small because our sax player, he moved to BC, which means he hasn't been coming to rehearsals lately.
Slacker.
I know. We're gonna have a talk. But we have we've got tuba, we've got trumpet, we got a trombone. We've got a couple of trombone players that come out fairly regularly. But that's about it for horns. But we've also got bagpipes, and we've got the fiddle. Sorry, violin.
It's a fiddle.
It's no. I don't want to get we I don't want to get in trouble. It's a violin.
It's a violin.
I like the word fiddle, but it's a violin. And yeah, we have a fair amount of instruments. We're a varied. We have a wide variety of instruments in our band. We have lots of drums. We've had shows where we've had 3 drummers. So yeah, it's a big band.
Cool. That's awesome.
Check it out.
So what kind of music do you guys play?
Oh, that's the $1 million question. I call it bad jazz, but that's a
bad jazz.
That's only because that's a terrible name. Forget I said that. Edit that out.
No editing. Sorry.
We're like we play everything from like rock music to Eastern European folk music to indigenous music to pretty much anything. We will play anything. It's almost all self-written. We're a compositional. People have called us a compositional ensemble, where everybody has to bring something to the game. Okay. It's instrumental. There's very few vocals, so it's that kind of thing.
It's my kind of music. Very few vocals, just good music being played.
Sometimes. My favorite thing about my band, I am in charge now.
I am king of the band.
I am king. I am not. But my favorite thing about our band is the risks that we take. We are that is the one thing that we do a lot is we take risks. And so sometimes that when you take risks, that means sometimes things don't work. And you have to be ready for that. You know, we've done shows that were just train wrecks and it was just god awful, you know. but you know, we took that risk. We went out and tried to do things. We would do shows where people would come with like a new song written out, like charts. We all read music somewhat, you know, enough to be able to play along.
Enough to be dangerous.
Enough to be dangerous. But somebody would bring a new chart to a gig and say, "We're playing this tonight," you know, and we've never rehearsed it. We've never even seen it before. This is the first time we're seeing this chart. And somebody would bring it to the show and say, "Okay, you're playing this tonight." And that's the kind of risks we'd take. And sometimes it would sound terrible, and sometimes it would be, you know, good. And one time every now and then it would be sublime. And that's what you're aiming for, right? The one. But to get there, you have to be not sublime a lot.
Well, you know, with no risk, there's no reward. With high risk, there's high reward. So,
yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the mantra of the band. In my opinion, it's a big band, so everybody can have a completely different thought of what they think of the band, and that's a nice thing too. You know, we're all doing it for our reason. For me, it's school. For me, this band is school because every time I rehearse with this band, every time I go play a gig with this band, I learn something because I am not a professional, talented musician. You know, I am an amateur hack who's quite. You know, I'm a great amateur hack. I'm really good at it. But you know, when I go to this band, I'm surrounded by people who are really good, and they played in like Feist's band, and they played in you know the Stars, and they played not the Stars, but they've worked with people. There's just a lot of talent in my band that I am soaking up, and I get to learn from. So for me, it's
awesome.
School where you're allowed to drink and smoke
Well, that's like college, right?
Yeah, it was like college. College didn't let me back. They told me to don't come back. So
Yeah. I was having a conversation about, God, I guess it was about 2 months ago with one of my friends, and they're like, back when we were in college, I'm like, oh, yeah, you mean high school with beer and ashtrays? so, so, I have to clarify for anybody who might not be from the United States who sees this. In the United States, the words college and university are interchangeable for the most part. The only thing that differentiates the two in the United States is university offers a PhD program. College offers up to a master's. So if I say college, you can substitute the word university. Because I know like up here college is like a 2-year thing or like a trade school type thing up here. It's different than it is in the States. In the States we say college, it's any 4-year higher education institution, but they just don't offer a PhD program. So they might only go up to masters. They're still considered a college. So yeah, so when I was in college or university, yeah, I always just called it high school with ashtrays and beer.
yeah, that was pretty much it. I went to college for 1 year, and I was there for music. And it's the ironic thing is that the year that I spent at college was the year that I played the least amount of music.
Yes.
I had to re-audition. I was in like a prep music program at Humber College, which means they don't think you're that talented, but they want your money.
Right.
So I had to re-audition, right? And I went and I did it, and I practiced and everything, and I tried to be really good. But my teacher said, the guy who I was auditioning for, he said, "Who do you think you are? Bill Ward?" And Bill Ward being the drummer from Black Sabbath. And I said, "Wow, yes, thank you, yes." And he was like, "No, I didn't mean that as a compliment. I meant that as so." I was like, "Oh, well, screw you, man." I didn't say that. I thought that, but yeah, so I wasn't allowed back. I was too heavy a drummer, too loud. I didn't hold my sticks right. So I moved to downtown Toronto. I got a job at Upper Canada, right? Upper Canada Brewing at 19, which sent me on the next 30 years of my life. And then I joined 2 or 3 bands, and immediately my musical education mushroomed or exploded. I went from being in school and getting no education to living down and having a job and playing in clubs and having to get it right. You know what I mean? Like that was an education, because there was no go do your homework and see if you can do this. It's like you had to do it. You had to show up and do it if you wanted to get paid.
Right. You can't half-ass it. You have to do the job. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you're thrown in the situation, and you see if you can do it. And luckily, drumming wise, I'm not great. I'm not super talented, but I'm able to do it. I'm able to sit in and listen to other people. I listen well, and I'm a good side man. I don't know what you want to call it. I take direction well.
Gotcha. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. Let's get a little bit back more into beer stuff. What is your favorite style of beer?
Well, I'd have to say, I guess it's a pale ale, just like a regular pale ale. I like a nice English style India pale ale. Is also one of my favorites. But if I had to pick, just pale ale. I like stouts. I do like a good. If you ask me my favorite beer I've ever had, it would.
What's your favorite? Is it Perdomo from Omnipollo?
It's so good. That's the one. It's the ginger, not ginger, graham cracker
The
stout.
graham cracker chocolate marshmallow stout from Omni Pollo. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so good.
We talked about this on the last episode you were on, and we couldn't remember the name of it, and I sent a message to you afterwards saying it was this, and you're like, yes, that was it. Yeah, that is probably one of my favorite all-time beers ever. It's just so damn decadent and so damn flavorful. I mean, the guys at Omni Pollo have it just going on. They know what the fuck they're doing.
They really do, and whoever, yeah, it's awesome all around. Now, my favorite singular beer that I've ever had was also a stout, and it was back. I think it must have been during the Sochi Olympics, so whenever that was. But there's a brewery here called Osthaus. You know Osthaus?
Love Osthaus. They make a fantastic saison.
Well, they made a stout called the Sochi, and it was I only ever had it once. It was on tap at the Woolwich. I was there on a Friday after work, and I had one, and then I had two or three, and I left, and then I never had it again because I think they only made it the once. But it was like a the old velvet fist,
It was the iron fist and the velvet glove. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think they ever made it again. I think they just did the one batch, and it was gorgeous. I could cry just thinking about it, just remembering it.
Yeah, if I had to choose one beer that I would say was my all-time favorite, it would be probably it would probably be one of the 1990s era Sam Adams Utopias. So
Wow.
For people who aren't familiar, Sam Adams makes this fantastic beer. It comes out every other year. It's called Utopia, and it's been made traditionally. They take parts of batches that are stored in barrels since the 90s. I believe I read an article last year that they're actually out of the stock from the 90s. Now they've moved into the early 2000s stuff for the barrel mixes. But they take it and it's aged and it's combined, and it's typically somewhere between 25 and 30% alcohol. So you drink it more like a cognac.
I remember.
Yeah, that is my favorite all-time beer. It was funny. I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, one of my friends who had never tried it, I bought a bottle and I invited him over, and we finished that bottle in one night. $300 bottle of beer, and we drank it in one night.
I don't know if I should say this. The worst beer I ever had, and it's a good friend of mine, John Graham at Church Key. You know Church Key?
I'm not familiar with Church Key. Where are they at?
Oh, check out Church Key. Church Key is John Graham is one of the last originals. He's been going for a while, and I've known John Graham forever, and he's kind of I don't know. He's a great guy, and he's a great brewer, and he's a bit of a punk rocker. He's not a punk rocker, but his style of brewing is a bit punk rock. He's, I guess, probably more of a hippie.
Hippie, punk rock, it's all the same.
But he made the Lactese Falcon.
The Lactese Falcon.
Yeah, and this was back in probably 2000. I just started at Stonehammer, so it was probably 2007. And it was it was like cheese. It was to drink it, you had to like hold your nose and drink it, because if your nose was open, my mouth wouldn't allow myself to take it in. because the smell was so awful. But I held my nose and I drank it, and it just tasted like. I'm sorry, John Graham. I love you, John Graham, and you make fantastic beers. But the Lactese Falcon was insane.
So it was basically the Limburger of beers. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yes. But I have a feeling that that's what he was going for. I think he only made like 100 bottles, and he brought one bottle over to, or somebody brought a bottle over to where I was living with George Eagleson, and we drank it. And we didn't drink a lot of it, but we tried to drink it. And I hope John contacts me and fills me in what that was that we actually drank, because I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, my channel has about 100 subscribers, so chances are he's never going to see this video.
Well, I'll tell him.
You gotta see, if you don't watch anything else this year, you gotta watch this video.
Hey, John, I mentioned your brewery. I talked about how it was the worst beer I ever had. What a great intro to a conversation with somebody you've known forever. Hey, I gave your brewery a mention online.
Yeah, sure, it was a negative mention, but hey.
Church Key is a great brewery. Church Key makes some great beers, and not all of them are called the Lactese Falcon.
Where are they at?
I think, is the town Campbellford. It's north of Brighton. Brighton on the 401 there. Maybe about half an hour north of the 401. And I think the town is called Campbellford, which is embarrassing. This is like actually my home turf. But it's been a while, and I try to forget my home turf.
Shame.
I'm from Belleville.
Oh, I actually have friends that live up in Belleville.
I feel sorry. For them. Poor people.
Yeah. No, whatever.
Belleville now. So that's Signal Hill, right?
Signal Hill. Okay. I'm not familiar with the area. I've actually never been up in that far up. The farthest I've gotten is Wooler. Far over. There's no up above Belleville. Yeah. Okay. It is kind of, well, from where I'm at, it's up. I mean, it's north and east of where I'm at. So
it's around the lake.
I'm in Brantford, which is in southwest, part of Ontario here. The Kingston, Belleville area is all north and east of me. So pretty much everything's north and east of me. I mean,
true enough. Not that we're talking geography.
So we talked about your favorite all-time beer. We've talked about your least favorite all-time beer.
Favorite beer I ever made was the most recent at Royal City, the exhibition. I guess it's called the Session IPA.
It's a fantastic IPA. I'm not an IPA guy, and I think that was a fantastic IPA. And Lisa, my wife, when I bought it for the show, she's like, "You didn't buy more?" So I had to go out and buy more.
Yeah, I love it. I still, I have, because I'm an old man yelling at clouds. I don't think that's an IPA, but
no, it's a pale ale, but I don't think it's an IPA per se. I mean,
but I do think it's delicious.
Oh yeah, no, it is good. I'm not a huge fan of IPAs. I love an old school traditional English IPA. I'm not a fan of the New England IPAs. I'm not a fan of the West Coast IPAs. Give me an old school IPA with that heavy malt backbone and that bitter punch on the end, and I'm good. I don't want the bitter all the way through, and I don't want all the fruity flavors and things like that. I'm really, at my core, I guess I'm really more of like a traditional English ale kind of guy. I love the malty backbone. I love that just the caramel and the toffee flavors and things like that. But that exhibition was a fine example of a nice session pale ale.
Yeah, I could drink a few of those. I love the lower. I love that we're making really tasty beers with lower alcohol.
Well, right. I mean, so I love my high ABV beers. Everyone who knows me knows that. People who've watched any episodes of the show know I make mention that I love barrel-aged stouts. But there is nothing wrong with a great session beer. I mean, if you can drink 6, 8 of them and not be completely trashed, that's a good beer.
Even like what I'm not very up on this subject, but even like table beers, like 2% or whatever, and I think those are great. We at Stonehammer we made like an English mild. It was like 3.5% or 3.8%, and it still had a fair amount of flavor, a fair amount of body. It was a little low on the body, but I mean just a little. I mean, we were trying.
I mean, what can you really do?
You can start drinking earlier. You can drink more. Again, getting old. But I can't start drinking like a 6.5% beer first thing. I gotta work into this these days.
You got to ease yourself into it.
Yeah, and it used to be, and I remember when a light beer was just your flagship beer with water added. Like that's what you didn't have a separate recipe for your light beer. You just had your whatever your main lager was, and you added more water.
Right. Well, I remember we discussed that the first time you were on the show. When you were at Upper Canada, they had the standard, and the light was just a watered down version of the same exact recipe.
Yeah, and that's no good. That's not the way to do it. Right. So I like now that light beers, and it's been like this for a little while now. But I really enjoy light beers that are their own beers. It's not just a light version of something else. It's not. I don't know. It's its own flavor profile. It's its own thing. It's not just like a weak something else.
Well, so. It's funny. Technology in brewing really hasn't changed a whole lot in the past 200 years or whatever. But in the last decade or so, they've really started making some good breakthroughs on how to maintain flavor and a little bit of body, but keep the alcohol levels lower so you can actually drink more without being completely blasted or completely wasted off your ass. And you can still participate in activities. So you're drinking a beer that has good flavor. You're drinking a beer that has a decent amount of body. Obviously, you're not going to get a ton of body out of a low alcohol beer, but you can still enjoy a beer or 6 and not be that guy at the party.
Yeah. I remember a few Georgia Paloozas. I don't know if you know what a Georgia Palooza is, but in Ontario, Georgia Palooza is a yearly event that celebrates the birthday of George Eagleson, who is a pillar of the Ontario brewing community. And it's his birthday. It's Georgia Palooza, and is always many brewers would bring their own like one-offs and special beers that they made just for this event. It was my favorite event during the year because it wasn't a marketing event. We weren't trying to sell anything. It was just brewers and brew industry people talking to each other. But you could tell what the trends were, and there was a couple of years where the trends were like huge beers, right? And you'd start drinking the light beers, which were like 7%, and you're moving up to the 12%. And by the mid-afternoon, you're done. And finally, after a few years, you notice the trend starting, and there was trying to remember who it was. The first one I had that was really good. There was like 4.5. It was a pale ale. It was like 4.5%, but it was full bodied. And I think it was a one-off, and I think it was a Great Lakes. Great Lakes came down to one of the Georgia Paloozas, which they often would. And I can't remember the name of it because all these beers are one-offs, so all the names were like, for just for that day.
Right.
But I remember drinking this, like, it was a 4.2% pale ale or something, but it felt like a full-bodied, it could have been a 6%, whatever. It didn't taste weak and thin, and I was like, I could drink this all day, but literally I could, instead of,
Right.
falling down drunk after 3 of them, I could maybe have 5 or 6.
Before you fell over drunk, right?
Before I
I get it. Yeah.
But I really, really appreciated the lower. Now we can have lower alcohol, but still lots of taste. I'm almost sounding like that old commercial. The more less filling, more flavor, whatever.
Right? Tastes great. Yeah, less filling tastes great. Yeah. That was a Miller Lite commercial, I believe.
Was that? Was that like maybe it was Miller Lite. I can't remember.
It was one of the light beers. It's like less filling, tastes great. Less filling, tastes great.
Yeah, maybe it was. You're right. Maybe it was Miller Lite.
Yeah.
Oh, a bad word.
We talked about a macro beer. Oh my god!
Well, first beer I ever bought. Okay, we're talking about like firsts and bests and whatnot. When I was like 14. I got a job at a resort, and I was working for a summer. Like, I went away and lived away for the summer and lived in a cabin, and I cut lawns and I cleaned pools and whatnot. But my mom came and visited me at one point for like a week. She didn't stay with me, but she came to, visit. And she bought me a 6-pack of Coors Light, Silver Bullets. And that was the first beers that were bought for me, and that I had, like I took home and I drank, I guess, because I guess my mom felt that I needed a 6-pack of beer.
Hey, I mean,
this is long before I thought I knew I had an interest in it. I just, at the time, I probably just had an interest in like intoxication, not the actual beer itself. But yeah, so that was my first. So the first beers were the Silver Bullets, but I very quickly moved on to 50s and black labels and like grandfather beers, because those are the beers that would not be taken at the party. If you put a bunch of 50s in the fridge next to a bunch of Molson Canadians, the Molson Canadians are the ones that people are going to grab, and people wouldn't grab your 50s or your black labels. It's grandpa beers. He called them grandpa
beers. Yes, yes. No, I'm very familiar. I used to drink Hams and Schlitz because nobody wanted them, and they were dirt cheap. So
yep. We used to drink Fosters, and we used to drink Schooners. We just get it was just stuff that wasn't Molson's or Labatt's. Like, also it might have been made by them. I don't know, but
right.
It was, as long as it was a label that people didn't really recognize, then your beer was safe and people wouldn't drink it. So yeah, Foster's, Schooners, Black Label, 50. But then my first craft beer or microbrewery beer, I guess, was Sleeman's, and that was because this was before they were huge. They were still kind of considered a microbrewery, and it would have been 1990. And I was like, oh, this is what beer actually tastes like. It's really good. This tastes great. I'll drink more of this. But then I bought a 12-pack of Sleeman's, and I was living in college at the time, and they were warm. So I put them in my window to cool them down. And you remember, Sleeman's are the choice is clear, right? You put them in a clear bottle. So I put these beers in a clear bottle in my window to cool them down in the sun.
They got skunky, right?
Oh, that's when I learned about that. Because about an hour later, I came back, and only an hour, like literally an hour later, I came back and I drank one of these beers, and it was, oh my God, what's happened to these beers? And that's when I learned about lightened beers. Through the choice is clear. Do not put your beer in clear bottles.
Do not put clear bottles in the window, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey man, it's been an hour. So
Oh,
I
yabbering
no,
on.
no, 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 no. I mean, this show was supposed to be kind of off the cuff and everything, but I think we should probably wrap it up because most people aren't going to want to listen to anything beyond an hour.
Let alone look at us.
Right. Especially us two. So, this is the part of the show where I say, hey, if you liked this episode, please like it. If you like what I'm doing, please subscribe and click the little bell to be notified when a new episode comes out. If you have any questions for me or for Andrew, please leave them in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to forward things on to him. Other than that, hey, this has been Rob from the internet, and this has been Andrew, who's a wealth of beer and music knowledge. Until next time, thanks for watching.
Thank you, Rob. That was fun.